Howdy folks, Dr. Will Wong here. Let's talk about fake transparency with nutritional industry fly-by-night companies. This industry is famous for having companies that show up for a while, do a heck of a lot of marketing, especially online or in the old days, taking out late-night television ads. And, there was one fellow that I remember whose name shall not be named who was spending $8 million a week buying TV airtime to air his special calcium product ads. And he claimed sincerity, he claimed transparency, they claimed all the other stuff. And they made a bundle and then they were gone, they disappeared. A part of it was because FDA went after them for making all sorts of unsubstantiated claims about their products. But they also just made their killing. They knew when the market was going down, and they just plain stopped the ads, and they moved on to something else. They actually started selling a book after that. And now you've also heard me say that the nutritional industry are, in the main, with maybe a handful of exceptions out of 3,000 companies, not the most honest people in the world. They're somewhere akin to the folks in Big Pharma when it comes to fabricating studies and when it comes to telling the truth about what their supplements do. Now, the latest ploy in sales, the latest marketing gimmick, is to show you a certificate of analysis to prove to you that their products are exactly what they say they are. Because you remember back when Consumer Reports told everyone that they had tested tens of thousands of nutritional products taken directly from shelves and ordered directly online. They tested them, and barely any of them had what they were supposed to have in them. Okay, so the new thing is transparency, and they will show you certificates of analysis to prove what they've got in them is what they've got in them. Problem is, those certificates of analysis are fake. Let me tell you how to be able to tell a true certificate of analysis. First things first. At the top of the page, you will find either the raw material maker's name, company name, address, phone number, and then at the end of the C of A, you will find a signature, sometimes an electronic signature, but still a signature, of the chemist who did the lab analysis to prove that C of A. So, we've got the name and address of the company, so you can actually go check on it. Now, you take a look at some of the C of A's that are showing up along with nutritional advertising, and guess what? Ain't no company heading at the top of the page. No addresses. No phone numbers. You can't check up. You don't know who to check up with because you don't know who did the test. So there's no way to check to see if that C of A is bona fide. Now, if it's an independent lab analysis and not from a raw material maker, let's say a raw material gets sent out to a third-party lab to get analyzed, then you'll have the name of the lab, you'll have the address of the lab, and the phone number of the lab. You'll have the ISO certificate number of the lab certifying that the lab is actually a lab and capable of doing the tests and analysis that are supposed to be reported on. And lastly, you'll have two things at the end of each report, whether it's from an independent lab or from the raw material maker. You will have a disclaimer saying that these analysis were correct at the time of analysis, but may not reflect what's actually the potency of the raw material product at the time of blending or at the time of finished product or at the time of consumption. Then you'll get a signature, the signature of the chemist who actually did the test. And the chemist will have his signature. Even if it's an e-signature, it will be his signature, just like a rubber stamp is valid instead of a regular pen signature. He will have his signature on the bottom of the page. The C of A's, or the things that have been claimed to be C of A's for various nutritional products, don't have the disclaimer. They don't have the signature. They don't have an ISO number. They don't have the name and address of the lab or the raw material company that had the test done. Now, I'll also tell you the God's honest truth about something else. Any nutritional company that tells you who their source of supply is also telling their competition who their source of supply is. So if company A, making, let's say, vitamin C, gets their raw material vitamin C from a company, let's say, in Red China, and then company B gets their vitamin C from a company in India or a company in the United States, there are going to be quality and potency differences between the stuff made in China and the stuff made in India and the U.S. India and the U.S. being superior to anything made in Red China. Now, not telling your competition where you get your raw materials from is called a trade secret, and by trade law, it's okay to have trade secrets. You don't have to be transparent about who your raw material suppliers are. There are nutritional industry organizations from inside of the nutritional industry that claim to be the watchdogs of the industry, certifying that each and every formula that gets registered with them actually does what it's supposed to do and has authentic raw materials and whatever else. In actuality, when the folks at the trade organization of the nutritional industry dreamt that one up, it was to steal the really good formulas from the little companies. They can pass them on to the big companies. The certifying people got a kickback, and the big company got a hold of something that they didn't have the smarts to make. In other words, it was a form of industrial espionage. What is important to look for in a manufacturer is state licensure. Now, in Texas, for example, we have one of the strictest state licensure laws for supplement companies. We're under the same heading as the over-the-counter drug manufacturer. In Texas, FDA doesn't usually operate. The Texas Department of Health does all the licensing and inspecting. And unlike other companies that are in other states that don't get inspected unless someone or a bunch of someone's sends a bunch of complaints to FDA, in other words, some nutritional companies never get inspected by FDA. Here in Texas, we get inspected at least every couple of years, sometimes more often if the inspectors have nothing to do or no one else in their district to go inspect. And everything gets inspected. The formulas get inspected. The batch reports get inspected. Oh, and that's one thing that I saw on one of the fake C of A's. It was actually a batch report saying what raw materials went into this particular product, and it wasn't even really a C of A. It was a batch report that had been labeled a C of A. So now that you have this news, you can take a look at those new super long fancy ads that are proliferating everywhere with the new fly-by-night companies that all arose after COVID, and everyone got disappointed in the drug companies and started looking for supplements to take. All these new fly-by-nights have taken advantage of that. You can take a look at those ads, and if they have those C of A's there, you'll be able to tell whether they're actual C of A's or fake C of A's. You'll be able to tell whether the company is actually transparent or whether they're lying through their teeth at you. And with that knowledge, you can act accordingly. Hope this has helped to inform you. I wish you all God's blessings. Be well, and I'll chat with you again next time. Bye-bye.